going on, YouTube? Let's rock and roll very shortly here.
And here we go.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is
not merely peace in our time, but peace in all time.
I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Did you think no one was watching?
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
your mission.
Suppose we go where no man has gone before.
To reclaim the American dream.
To be given the rights of a human being. To be afforded equal rights and equal opportunities. By any means necessary.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you're hearing his voice, you're hearing the voice of reason.
You've certainly come to the right place.
So just before the show started, it dawned on me that we expend so much energy just to barely beat a group of Neanderthals like you saw on the stage and you're currently seeing on the stage at the Republican GOP debate. I decided not to do a live stream coverage of it because talking with a good friend and they were so spot on. It's insanity. The level of misinformation, intentional, the level of it's absurd. And it gets tiring. It drains you when you see the level of stupidity that that represents what modern day conservatism is. Now, that stupidity would not be so problematic if it was not used to mobilize votes in order to do things that are detrimental to the rest of America. Right? It's okay to be ignorant by yourself, but when your ignorance becomes a tool, the mechanism through which policies that hurt the rest of America are enacted, war is engaged in, it's that level of ignorance that is used to support particular paradigms that completely devastate America time and time again. After a while, that stupidity just drains you. And I wonder, what is it that we're missing as progressives? It could be something. Well, actually, let me finish that train of thought. What is it that we're missing as progressives that we have to fight so hard just to beat people who should not even be in the conversation? That's the thing. That's what's so tiring. People who are on that stage, I had 10 years ago, before I even picked up my first book on political science, I could wipe the floor intellectually and policy wise with everyone who's on that stage at the first day, except maybe Senator Graham. Lindsey Graham, he's a sharp guy. He's just wrong. But the thing is that they're playing to. They've created this entire framework. They've created an entire alternate universe that they exist in. And they have exposed the level of ignorance that is present in the United States of America, because they can get about 50% of the electorate. And if progressives win, it's by the skin of our teeth. And we just saw last Tuesday night, that progressives actually lost. Conservatism won. And so I think as progressives, we have to take a minute and reflect on what we're doing. We're obviously doing something wrong. There's something that we are not doing right in this competition of ideas, because the ideas that the other side is presenting should be no competition whatsoever. But they are. And we can't sit back and keep blaming the level of ignorance and just calling them stupid, because we're barely beating stupid. That's the part that's so tiring, so frustrating, that we have to expend so much energy, so many resources, so much money just to barely win, if we win at all. It's Tuesday night, the Benjamin Dixon Show. Thanks for joining me. A couple of things on my mind. I'm not going to do a live stream of the debate tonight. I'm just going to say a couple of things that are on my mind. If it ends up being 15 minutes, which I doubt, it's probably going to be closer to 45 minutes, 40, whatever. However long it is, that's how long it is. I want to talk about a couple of things, and I'm not even going to get an outline. I'm just going to go right into it. Let me start with the Starbucks red cup. And I want to start here, as ridiculous as it is. I want to start here because I think it's indicative of the level of asininity that we are confronted with, but that is so successful. Being smart, or being the smarter in the smarter one in the conversation, does not necessarily equate to a victory. We have to be politically savvy. We have to be media savvy. We have to be wolves in sheep and wolves, or hang on, I said that wrong. We need to be sheep and wolves in sheep clothing, right? We have to be, there's a scripture from the Bible that says we have to be wise as serpents, right? And harmless as doves. We have to be able to compete with these people on a level that we can destroy them. And I think what we default back and fall back on, and we just leave it here. We always leave it in the spot where, well, we're smarter than you. Yes, we, for the most part, I mean, there are some dumb liberals. Let's just be honest. There's some authoritarian leaning liberals. There are some liberals that I don't even want to be associated with. But for the most part, yes, we can probably say the average IQ of a progressive is higher than that of a conservative, that we at least seek the truth more often than conservatives do. We can say all those things. We can assert that we're smarter than a lot of conservatives. We definitely can say that our candidates are way smarter than anyone that's on the stage right now. But that does not guarantee any victory. In fact, it's not enough to even win most of the time. We barely win, if we win at all. And so being smart is not enough. Case in point, here's imbecile number one, who started an entire thing nationwide. Joshua Feuerstein, listen in.
What's up, Josh Feuerstein here. I think in the age of political correctness, we become so open-minded, our brains have literally fallen out of our head. Do you realize that Starbucks wanted to take Christ and Christmas off of their brand new cups? That's why they're just plain red. In fact, do you realize that Starbucks isn't allowed to say Merry Christmas to customers? Well, I decided, instead of simply boycotting, well, why don't we just start a movement? So when I went in and I asked for my coffee, they asked for my name, and I told them my name is Merry Christmas. So guess what, Starbucks? I tricked you into putting Merry Christmas on your cup. And I'm challenging all great Americans and Christians around this great nation, go into Starbucks and take your own coffee selfie. And then I challenge you to not only share this video so that the word gets out, but let's start a movement. And let's call it, I don't know, hashtag Merry Christmas Starbucks. And I know that by sharing this video and getting other Christians to do it, well, I guarantee that we can make this go around the world. And Starbucks, guess what? Just to offend you, I made sure to wear my Jesus Christ shirt into your store. And since you hate the Second Amendment, I even carried my gun. Yikes. Anyways, guys, please take a moment. Choose to not be politically correct. Just correct. Share the video, like, comment.
Blah, 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 blah. Joshua Feuerstein. Okay. I played it for several reasons. I could take the perspective of how imbecilic it is. I could do that, but everyone already knows that. I'll just be repeating the obvious, right? I could point out one nuance level deeper how ridiculous it is for you to encourage your followers to go support something you disagree with for the purposes of sticking it to the man, when in actuality you're giving them your money, right? The fact that many of his supporters don't see that does speak to some of their critical thinking abilities, or the lack thereof. But I'm not even going to talk about that. What I'm going to talk about is how effective this moron, let me take that back. He's not a moron. I think he is a nefariously brilliant charlatan. He is a nefariously brilliant, if I don't even know if nefariously, but I'm going to make it. I'm going to use it. Nefariously brilliant charlatan, because he is using techniques that are historically proven. One, he's engaging in complete untruths, right? He is outright lying. We already know that Starbucks never had Merry Christmas on their cups, right? Two, he's dealing with the absurd, because here is a company that is not a religious company, yet he's creating a straw man. Let's just break it down. He's creating a very potent straw man, appealing to the very id. He's appealing to the id of every single one of the emotional anger state, the outrage. He's appealing to every one of his supporters. This is how he became famous. This is how he became a thing. And he's now a national thing because of his ability. He appeals directly to that thing that makes somebody get up and go out and act against their own best interest. Because if you really believe that Starbucks is of the devil, right, and you really believe that Starbucks is attacking Christianity, then the last thing that you should do is go out and spend money to buy something from them just so that you could feel like you've done something to them. So yet again, another conservative has proven to be able to get people to get up and do something against their own best interest, because they're able to appeal to the id. They're able to appeal to the emotion, the emotionality. They're able to appeal to the anger that's inside of them. That he's able to appeal to the persecution complex. Let me speak about the persecution complex. Here it is. Everybody has it. Some of us try not to play into it, but everybody does it. Everyone has it. It is a part of human nature. And so we're sitting around lambasting them for using the persecution complex, but they're winning with the persecution complex, right? So they're winning by appealing to the emotions, appealing to the anger, feeding into the persecution complex. They're winning by claiming here it is. I'm going to skip one. Let me hold that thought. I want to show you the next step in this. The next step in this is Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump, who probably hasn't gone to church in the last 50 years. Listen to him and look what he does with it after that.
Today I read, and I have Starbucks. They're my tenants. Did you read about Starbucks? No more Merry Christmas on Starbucks. No more. I wouldn't buy. Hey, look, I'm speaking against myself. I have one of the most successful Starbucks in Trump Tower. Maybe we should boycott Starbucks. I don't know. Seriously. I don't care. By the way, that's the end of that lease, but who cares? Who cares? Who cares? But today, a big story that Starbucks is taking Merry Christmas off. No more Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas has never been on their cups, but that doesn't matter. The truth doesn't matter. Let's continue.
I will tell you. Lots of big things, lots of little things. You can call this anything you want. But if I become president, we're all going to be saying Merry Christmas again. That I can tell you. That I can tell you.
Okay. So Donald Trump does the next step in this. Donald Trump takes this ridiculous non-starter, this issue that's the non-issue, right? It takes something that's a non-issue. You use emotion, their emotions, you use anger, you use half-truths, you create a straw man, and you feed it to a base that's ravenous. They're waiting for something to be angry about and for something to feel victimized by. And now all of a sudden you create this movement, and then your person who wants to be the president of the United States, he capitalizes on that movement by saying that when he becomes president, that everyone is going to say Merry Christmas. This is the absurdity. Here's the thing. We can no longer rest on our laurels and say that they're just stupid and that they're ignorant. The fact of the matter is that they're successful and that they are very effective and that their methodology is proven. And so the question shouldn't be whether or not they're ignorant, but the question is, how do we beat them at their own game? Because there is no reason in the world, in a sane world, And maybe that's my naivete that I think that we should operate in a relatively sane world. But there's no reason in a sane world, a person like Donald Trump, Ben Carson, Ted Cruz, Scott Walker, who was out, but he was there. All of these people, Bobby Jindal, there's no reason for people as asinine as them should be even in the conversation for being the president of the United States, but they are. And they are because of these proven techniques, these proven methods of moving people to anger, using rage. And we've got to be able to fight back against. We have to be able to beat them at their own game. I'm not saying that we engage in the stupid, but I am saying that we need to stop and look at our methods and see what is it that we're doing that even allows them to be in the conversation. Because realistically, as ridiculous as the Republican Party has become, as ridiculous as conservatism, the modern day conservatism is, there should be no Republican Party. This party should have dissolved a long time ago, but we find ourselves at war every election cycle with the same level of idiocy. And it's just amazing to me that we're having to fight. We're fighting in reality while they're fighting in an alternate universe. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, Ben, it's Pedro. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Pedro. Thanks for the call. What's on your mind?
Okay, this might answer, hopefully, or lead to the answer of why these conservatives and these rather extremist thinking Christians and conservatives and what have you, Republicans, why they are like this. Now, even though I'm a non-believer, and I very vehemently fight against the coming theocracy that's like sort of threatening this nation, I'm of the opinion that most Christians, which take up a majority of this country, don't believe like Mr. Joshua Fierstein or however you pronounce it. I don't think they're as wacky as him to think that Starbucks or is waging war on Christmas or what have you. Mm-hmm. However, I think you can agree with me that when it comes to things on a slightly different subject, when it comes to things like black crime, when it comes to things like Muslims, when it comes to things like anything like that, whenever someone does something crazy of a minority, whenever they do something crazy, people go, why aren't you people speaking out against them? Where are the moderate Muslims? Where are the assimilated, civilized black people? And so on and so forth. So I think the reason is that most of the people in this country, whether Christian or not, even if they disagree with Joshua Fierstein or Bristol Palin, they're passive. They're guilty by like omission of like by accepting them. They're passively accepting them, and I want to ask you, why is it that even though, I mean, you're obviously doing what should be done, which is speaking out against these crazy type of people, but why is it that most of this country is okay with people like Fierstein saying this kind of stuff and not divorcing themselves from it? Why do you think that is?
That's a great question, and actually, I think you hit on something very key there. I think the reality of it is, Pedro, that you have a large segment of Christianity, of conservatism, that feeds into it, whether they believe it or not. There's a special place in each and every one of us that if somebody speaks to, it tickles our fancy, for lack of a better word, right? It says exactly what we want to hear at a subconscious level. It plays into our our persecution complex, and it goes across the board, right? I've seen it in conservatives, I've seen it in liberals, I've seen it in progressives, I've seen it across the board. But when people say exactly what you have a suspicion of, even if you have no evidence of whatsoever, then you're more than likely to, at a minimum, click, like, share, and subscribe. And that's the world that we live in, right? The threshold for entry into the national conversation is much lower now. And so you get people like Joshua Feuerstein who are able to be elevated because of how easy it is for someone to jump on the scene with misinformation. Now back to your point where why aren't other people speaking out? because it's difficult to speak out. It's difficult to actually it's thinking is a difficult thing, right? To actually sit down and to gather the information and see that someone is lying to you and then come up with a rebuttal to fight back against what they're saying. That's a difficult process. Now you add on top of that you don't have a platform. You don't have anybody listening to you. So there may very well be 200,000 posts out there that are going against what Joshua Feuerstein has said or whatever his name is, right? But they don't have the platform. How do you build a platform? Well, he's shown them how to build a platform. You build the platform through demagoguery. You build a platform by appealing to their base nature. And so you have these confluences of factors that really gives the appearance that no one is speaking out against it because the loudest voice in the room has the biggest platform. And the way they got that platform is with half-truths, innuendo, straight out lies, and appealing to the fear in each and every one of us, are appealing to that base, that nature of them in them. And I think that's really a special formula that we need to be cognizant of, that we may not want to engage in. We may not want to do it ourselves, but we need to know their game, and we need to be able to either beat them at their game or at a minimum be able to expose their game to their people. Appreciate that question, Pedro. So that's where we are. That's where I am. We have to beat conservatism at their own game. We do outrage, right? Liberals, we have for every conservative blog, there's a liberal blog. We do outrage fine. We do that well. We do intelligence well, because everyone comes out with a thought piece, right? Everyone comes out with these position papers. But how is it that at the end of the day, when we have an election, we are allowing people of this character, of this level of, how is it that a pathological liar like Ben Carson is the front runner? How is it that a charlatan like Donald Trump is battling for the front runner position? We can't rest on the idea that half of America is just idiotic. Because if we rest on that idea, then we're okay with leaving us right where we are, where progressives are barely winning, even though we have the better ideas, we have the better platforms, we do better on the government, we do better when we're running the government, rather, we do better in every single way, in every measure, we perform better, but yet we have allowed the conversation to be that we're inept and that we're incompetent. We've got to beat them at their own game. All right, folks. Yeah, let's take a quick break. I'm going to take a quick break. Unfortunately, I'm going to give you the corporate media break this time. And actually, maybe not. Maybe I'll just take a quick mental break. And when I come back, we're going to do, I want to talk about Yale protests and the media suppression that some progressives are trying to defend, other progressives are outraged over, and I want to discuss my thoughts on it and why I won't defend it, but I'm not necessarily outraged over it. But I think we have to be smarter than that. Not think, I know that we absolutely have to be smarter than that. All right, folks. We're going to take a pause for the cause. If you want to join the conversation, 857-600-0518. This is the Benjamin Dixon Show, and we'll be back after a short mental break. would help us. The comfort woman that has been that ever seen one. That is the next stage of evolution in America.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Ben Dixon.
He's obviously he's a radio show host or something like that.
You're damn right I am.
Hey, no.
All right. 857-600-0518. You can join the conversation. I kind of like the silence. Silence actually helps me think a lot better than all the commercials. But anyway, I digress. Yale University. I dissected yesterday the reason for the protest, the reason the students were so angry, the reason they lashed out. That particular young lady lashed out because of the expectation of the job that the gentleman in the video had, according to students and the general culture of Harvard, of Yale. The dorm master is responsible for creating this safe environment. And the fact that this dorm master now rejected that idea, well, it made her a little more upset than she could handle. And she started saying, F you, F that, F everything, F the world, F your mama, F your baby. If, she just dropped the F bomb every other second. And a lot of people got upset with their blah, 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 blah. All right. That's one thing. There is a commonality between what's happening at Yale and the University of Missouri. And I've seen it at other Black Lives Matter-esque events where they try to shut out the media. The premise behind shutting out the media is that this is a safe place. This is a place where they want to be able to engage in conversations that the media may try to misrepresent. And so we don't want the media there. To a certain extent, I can buy into that because there are media players who want to craft narratives that are counter to what you're trying to do, that would outright lie. Let's forget about just crafting a narrative. There are media outlets that would take your protest, your action, and represent it in the most negative light possible. But the videos that came out yesterday of protesters essentially shoving the media out in their efforts to create and curate and maintain this safe space, what they ended up doing was creating a counter narrative, not even a counter narrative. They created a new discussion, which made them look like authoritarian, brutish, and abusive people who don't want to even honor the First Amendment. Oh, now it escapes me. But who cares? I'm gonna keep moving. Here's the thing. I can understand your desire to not want your narrative misrepresented in the media, but that is absolutely a part of doing business in America. There will always be media voices who are going to misrepresent what you're trying to do, but then there will be media voices that are going to represent exactly what you're trying to do, exactly how you're trying to do it. But when you shut media out, you've created a new narrative of this particular movement is trying to silence the media, or this particular movement is trying to silence dissenting voices. They're trying to censor, and this is counterproductive. This is why I oppose this portion of Black Lives Matter, of any progressive movement that tries to shut out the media. I oppose that entire concept because it's detrimental to your own movement. I'm pragmatic if I'm nothing else. If you represent your movement in a fashion that you want to silence dissenters, or you want to censor people who disagree with you, and you want to force them to not to be able to speak or to talk or say, then you have one of two things. You have either misrepresented your movement and made your movement to be dictatorial and authoritarian, or your movement is dictatorial and authoritarian. Now, I'm going to give you all the benefit of the doubt and say that that's not who you really are, and that's not what you want to represent, because you cannot, it would be the antithesis of your movement. If your movement is equality and equal opportunity, and your movement is creating a safe space for everyone, if your movement is about forwarding progress in America for minorities, and by virtue of doing it for minorities, you're going to be forwarding it for all Americans. If that's what your movement is, then by definition, you cannot be oppressive. And silencing people who disagree with you is oppressive. Will people who disagree with you take your words out of context and lie about you and misrepresent you in the media? Absolutely. Can you and should you silence them and force them out, and then force all of media out because you're trying to purge the people who are going to misrepresent your movement? Absolutely not. You cannot do that without becoming the very monster that you are opposing. You cannot fight oppression by using oppression. So for everyone who is out here trying to cape, there's a lot of people, I see a lot of people that I'm a fan of, that I'm not really a fan of anybody, but a lot of people I support, right? I support a lot of people. I see a lot of people that I support and people that I read who are trying to give excuses for these university students shoving out the media. You may agree with it, but if you agree with it on this, you are absolutely wrong. You're wrong because of two reasons, philosophically and pragmatically. Philosophically, it goes counter to what a real progressive movement is. You cannot fight oppression by using oppression. That's number one. Pragmatically, you are giving the appearance to the rest of the world that you want to be dictators, that you want to be oppressive, that you want to be authoritarian, and you're giving the media red meat. What better counter narrative? What will get more clicks than a movement that is silencing the media? Do you not realize the media is going to foam at the mouth at that story? That becomes the story. Your protest is no longer the story. The fact that you're trying to suppress everyone from getting any media access to it is now the story. And so all of your good efforts are now thrown out the window because you wanted to create a safe space and keep all of the media out. Here's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say you have to be smarter than that. It is true. It is absolutely true that if you're Black, you've got to be better than everyone else just to get the same opportunities. We grow up with that reality. You just have to be twice as good. You should want to be twice as good, just be better than everyone else. So we have to be smarter than this, and we have to be able to use the media to our advantage. Do not make an enemy out of the media, because for every conservative blog that's going to lie about your protest, there is a progressive blog that is going to promote your progress, that's going to promote your action and your protest. So you have to be smarter than that, because you cannot. And actually, there's a video out. I think there's a link. Where is that link? There's a video where one of the professors at the university was one of the people who was going around saying, we need muscle. We need some muscle to get rid of the media. Do you not realize that you sound exactly like a Gestapo? You sound exactly like any dictatorial regime in history when you want to use muscle to get rid of the opposition. Now, I don't put much stock in professors because I'm almost done with my PhD. And the closer you get to your PhD, the more you realize professors are not necessarily smart. They're just patient, and they can finish work. And you can see how petty and how ridiculous professors can be. The supposed intellectual elite of our world, they're pretty much just an average Joe who had a little more patience to go to school. So I'm not putting stock in professors, but I do expect a little bit more when so much is on the line. Somebody out there has to be thinking. This idea that you can silence people that disagree with you, that's not the world we live in. If counter protesters want to come to your protest, they can do that. They have the right to do that. And it's up to really to the police to create a barrier, but they can't stop them from coming. It is a competition of ideas. It is a competition of narratives. It is a competition of may the best man idea and narrative win. You do not enter that competition by silencing people with whom you disagree and people that you do not trust, philosophically and pragmatically. So stop defending this error. It was an error. It was a mistake, and it is a mistake that is happening too often, and it needs to stop. You do not win this by shutting down your opposition. You win this by convincing everyone else that your idea and your position is better than the opposition. And a part of that is knowing how to utilize the media to your advantage. We have to be smarter than that. We have, let me say this one more time. We have to be smarter than to allow people. Hang on. No. I need to start that sentence over. It's very important that I start that sentence over. We have to be smarter than giving the media exactly what conservatives need to get more people opposed to your movement. I think I can say that again if I can remember it. We have to be smarter than to give the media a narrative that would help conservatives convince more people to be against your movement. Because this is absolutely 100% about convincing people that you are right. I have a book that I don't know if I'm going to do an ebook or a book, but basically, yeah, I'm not going to give the title. I'm going to finish writing it first. But basically, it's a how-to guide, how to not make stupid political mistakes, because every step of the way, it is a political game. Every step of the way, there's political calculations that must take place, and you have to not be so concerned. I'm sorry, this is the brutal, honest truth. If your concern is about if you're more concerned about creating a safe space where you can feel comfortable, then you are accomplishing your goals, then you do not need to be in this game. Accomplishing your goals, as ambitious as the goals of Black Lives Matter is, as ambitious as the goals of Occupy Wall Street were, as ambitious as these goals are, the last thing you need to be worried about is being comfortable. Completely F comfort. Be ready to don't block that's why I don't block trolls. I refuse to block trolls because I want them to make me uncomfortable, so that when the time comes, when I am really locked into a heated battle and a debate, it won't be anything to me because I've already handled thousands of trolls. I don't understand. I get that you want to be able to talk without people talking back to you. That's not the real world. That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. And if you're not ready for that, then you're not ready for this real battle. All right. That's semi rant number 2. Moving on. So that's Yale. Starbucks, the fight against conservatism. Carson targeted by media. I kind of wanted to talk about that, but ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to stop here because I want you to go and watch the rest of the debate. It should just be getting good. I'm going to watch a little bit of it, and I'm probably going to fall asleep, but I'll watch some clips tomorrow, and I'll get the clips and give you a summary tomorrow of anything that's meaningful. But I think I'm going to stop the play-by-play live broadcast of the debates until it becomes more substantive. Maybe after the primary season, I don't know. I'm playing it by ear, but that's what I want to go over tonight. And let me just recap just for everyone. we have to be conservatives at their own game, which means we have to be more politically savvy. We have to be more, not just smarter than them, but politically smarter than them. And we have to go after their voters, and we have to go after them and convince them that our ideas are better and that their leaders are ridiculous, because there's no reason that this party should even exist anymore when you consider the type of imbeciles that are running the party. Folks, I could have a whole lot more for you, but I'm going to stop there. You guys have a good one.
And until that moment comes, when we, the Americans, are able to accept the fact that on that continent we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other, that I am not a ward of America. I am one of the people who built the country. Until this moment.
And we are brothers. It's not a question of Jews or Christians or Muslims. We're all in the same boat.
We need each other.
Love is a condition so powerful. It may be that which holds the stars in the firmament.
Until this moment.
Love.
Until this moment.
Love.
Until this moment.
I come to you today to say that we can build a newer and better nation. I say we can do so, that we must do so, and that we will do so.
You've tuned in to The Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at www.thebenjamindixonshow.com.